Thank you for providing me this opportunity to interact with with the participants and the paper presenters. I'm sure this is going to be a very robust session, and but of course the timing, I would say that people must be hungry. This is the time for that, and since we have started this session late, let me know how much time do we have at our discussion in order to make other sessions in time.
Ma'am,
so please let me know how much time.
The session is supposed to end at 1:30, but we have only half an hour now. So can we end at about 2 o'clock? Is that a possibility with you? Instead of 1:30, 2 o'clock?
Fine, fair enough. And then we have, as the timetable which has been given to me, we have 6 presenters and one more paper came later. So we have 7 presenters. So I'm sure they are well in attendance in the program. And so 7 divided by 60, that comes to be 7. It comes to be somewhere around 9 minutes. But so around 9. So if everybody is given 9 minutes to present, so we will not be left with any time for interaction. So as the time given for me to give an address was half an hour, I'll squeeze it to some 10 minutes. Each one of you would take notice of the time, and I request all the participants to brief and convey the major findings. As I see, I had gone through these papers. So these papers are pretty interesting. So it will be very nice that all of you give a small brief about what you have done and the major findings and implications of your study. So that would be more useful for all the listeners as well as all of us, and simultaneously it will save the time also. So over to the participants, and I invite the first presenter, Muhammad Jabir Rahman and Dr. Rajkumari Sujata Devi. That is influence of principal leadership styles on learning styles of primary schools of 100 RR Secondary School of Imphal East. And this is a case study. So over to you, the presenters. You start now. Muhammad Jabir Rahman.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, the chairperson, Mr. Sarat Sinha, and good afternoon to Dr. N. Mitten. Just a second, I'm not able to present the PPT.
In the meantime, when you're trying to share the PPT, can your co-author introduce the topic so that we save the time and we don't lag behind for the third session? So we will come on track with the timings. So that's my kind request. Yeah. Can Sujata Devi, Rajkumari Sujata Devi introduce the topic?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. The topic of our study is influence of principal's leadership style on learning styles of upper primary students of 100 Flower Higher Secondary School of Imphal East. Madam, we had the objectives which we had framed was to identify the leadership style of the principal of that particular school and identify the learning styles of the students reading in class 6 of school. The principal and the learning style of the students studying any class 6. Now, I think Sir Jabir could catch me up and continue with his presentation.
Okay,
Sir?
thank you so much. Thank you
Okay,
so much,
sir,
ma'am,
please go ahead.
for helping me out. So, as ma'am had told, the topic is regarding the influence of principals' learning style on learning style of upper primary student. So, just a brief introduction. We already know the meaning of leadership, then as well as leadership style. Then we will on the leadership style that has been identified by Code. So we'll focus upon 3 parameters, that is authoritarian leadership style, democratic leadership style, then delegative leadership style. We'll focus upon these 3 parameters in order to find the leadership style of principals of the 100 Flower Higher Secondary School. Then we'll move on to the learning style. Learning style, as we all know, it's very important for students as well as for teachers. Learning style, actually, it is a set of factors, behavior, and attitudes that face for an individual in a given situation. So it actually direct the learning and teaching. So it is very important to find out the learning styles of students. Focus upon the Kolb's experimental learning model. His model works on 2 levels. One, that is a 4-stage cycle of learning and 4 separate learning styles. This is just a brief picture. So we'll focus upon these 4 parameters: accommodating learning style, diverging learning style, and then converging and assimilating learning styles. So we will try to find out the learning styles of class 6 students of 100 Flower Higher Secondary School through certain questionnaires, and we'll try to identify the learning style of these 4 parameters. So just a brief, for example, accommodating learning style will have certain attributes. Likewise, the diverging learning style will also have certain attributes which will all be different from one another. So we'll try to identify the learning styles. Then the rationale of this study, why we are studying this. Actually, what happened is that we can measure the learning style of principal through certain questionnaires or certain other tools. And also the same way we can also measure the learning style. So both of these affect the performance, overall performance of schools. So it is that there must be certain the leadership style of principal as well as the learning style of students in a particular school. So we try to find out the relationship between them. So another reasons why we are focusing upon this is that in Manipur, I am from Manipur, we are studying, Imphal is in a district of Manipur, so we are focusing upon the state of Manipur. So Manipur, as we observe that there are various kind of difficulties in finding out the learning styles. Even teachers are very confused with students since they don't have any methods to identify the learning style. So it's become very little bit difficult for teachers to even have a certain direction with students. So we hope it is very essential to find out the identify the learning style. So not only just learning style in some schools in Manipur, we have found out that because of ineffective leadership styles of principal, the school was not performing well. So we move on to the objective. The objective is to identify, number one, to identify the principal learning style of 100 Flower Higher Secondary School, and also to identify the learning styles of class 6 students, and also to find out the relationship between the principal learning style and the learning style of student of class 6. So the methodology that we apply is the survey type of research method with ex post facto design. The leadership style here in this study is the independent variable, and the learning style is dependent variable. Population of the study consists of all the students enrolled in class 6 of 100 Flower Higher Secondary School, which is 52 in number, but actually maybe because of various other factors, we could collect only 30 samples, and this is incidental.
Sir, if I may interrupt, quickly come to your findings, results. That would be and time effective, and we would be able to give us time to others as well.
Okay, ma'am. I'll conclude in 2 minutes. Then we have identified the principal learning styles. So the principal learning style. Then we also identify the learning style of students. So our conclusion is that here in this table we can see that the principal has the learning style predominantly of participative learning style, which is almost like 86%, and delegative learning style, which is almost 70%, authoritarian learning style, which is 64%. This means that there is no particular dominant type of leadership style, but predominantly the principal has participative learning style, which is 86%. So the principal has flexible learning leadership style. Then we go on to identify the learning styles of student of class 6. So almost all the students have different learning styles, like accommodating learning style, like 41.6%, diverging for class 6, 40%, assimilating 44%, and conversing 47%. That means there is no particular dominant learning style. It is all mixed up. Then we go on to identify the relationship. We use Pearson correlation coefficients. So it is calculated between the raw scores of the leadership style of the principal and the scores of the students in different learning style of the students. So after this table shows the different correlations for accommodating learning style and the principal learning style. We have 0.142. So almost all the correlations are small. It's insignificant, but conversing learning style, it has minus 0.282. So the conversing learning style is negatively correlated to the principal's learning style. Since the Pearson correlation value is minus 0.28, the correlation is low and definite. So our finding, the main finding is that at number one, the participative learning style is predominantly seen in the leadership style of principals of 100 Flower Higher Secondary School, which is flexible. And in the second finding, we found out that the class 6 student of 100 Flower Higher Secondary School exhibit predominantly conversing learning style, but very closely followed by other 3 styles. And thirdly, which is most important, the conversing learning style of class 6 students of 100 Flower Higher Secondary School in Imphal is weakly correlated to the principal learning style. It means that students who has more interested in technical, laboratory, and practical activities are slightly influenced by their principal's leadership style. So the students having accommodating, diverging, and assimilating learning styles are not influenced by the leadership style of the principal. So these are the main finding. So in conclusions, when the learning style of student is desirable, then the learning outcome will be better, and hence the performance of the school will be better. So the better performance of student means that the school is improving overall. Therefore, the principal's learning styles have a direct impact upon the performance of the school. So the conclusion drawn from this study is that there exists relationship between the principal's learning style and the conversing learning style of students for class 6 students. So educational implication, if I have time, can I still continue for 1 more minute? So in educational implication, if the relationship exists for real, then the principal of school can work for his or her own self-improvement through various means like capacity building, self-assessment, self-improvement practices. And finding shows that principal's learning style is negatively or positively correlated to the learning style of student. Therefore, it can be concluded that the principal influences the overall improvement of the school, because the learning styles of schools directly affect the learning outcome of the schools. That means the principal learning styles and the overall performance of the schools are also interrelated.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Mohammad Zabir Rahman ji and Dr. Sujata Devi. I'd like to invite the second presenter, Mr. Dhirendra Kumar Jha, and his paper is on Aesthetic in School Ecology, Empirical Studies of Leadership with reference to KV Bilaspur. Dhirendra Kumar Jha. Chaji, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Respected ma'am on the chair.
Just a second, sir. Just a second. Jabir Rahman, please unshare your representation. Unshare, please. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Respected chairperson, honorable academicians, Namaskar. I am Dhirendra Kumar Jha, Principal, Kendriya Vidyalaya, Bilaspur, Chhattisgarh. And I am going to present my paper entitled Aesthetic Sense in School Ecology, Empirical Studies of Leadership with reference to Kendriya Vidyalayas. My whole paper is based on some key concepts like what is aesthetic sense and aesthetic process, and what is of aesthetic sense in the school or the because we lots about the democratic type of leader, autocratic type of leader, but the aesthetic leadership. And
sorry to interrupt, Dhiren ji. You think you can unmute yourself. You can mute yourself. Speak.
Hello, ma'am. Now is it okay?
Now, otherwise we were not able to make out. At least I was not, from my side, I was not able to make out what you were speaking.
Sorry. Now am I audible, ma'am? Clearly? Okay. Thank you.
It's a kind answer. Only one request is that.
Sure, ma'am. Ma'am, actually, based on some key concepts, is aesthetic sense and what is aesthetic process. What is the role of aesthetics in the school dynamism or school? What is aesthetic? Generally, we are talking about kind of leadership, but what is aesthetic leadership? Some experience from my 19 years of service in Kerala. So, sense maybe artistic appreciation of things as thesis of conflicting thoughts in mind in response to empirical experiences of the surrounding. Lines of the written Sena was Dr. Saxena written, जब भी आता है सुंदर दिखने लगता है, फन उठाए कांटों से नन्ही पत्तियां खाती, डालियों में चलता चीता, डाल पर लटका का फल या इनकी की जगह आदमी होता, जब भी कोई उससे लड़ने खड़ा हो जा दिखने लगता है. Whenever someone stand up, it looks beautiful. Poet, while seeing how they is struggling to survive, the struggle of everyone with the outer world and the struggle of conflicting thoughts in the mind of an individual, aesthetic content which is further purified into. In any person may be defined as a state of mind where various flexible and conflicting thoughts come into the mind of the individual at a time as a response to solve any problem at a specific point of time through sensory perception. Our sensory organs are continuous, but some of them are only perceived by us as per our interest. When a person is interacting, his or her to solve problem or identify the problem at first, flexible and conflicting thought come to his or her mind. Finally, in due course of time, an appropriate option is selected by the individual as a solution to the problem. The options implemented as a solution to the problem and feedback thereof would give cognition to the individual.
So kindly come to the methodology and what your findings are, sir.
Madam, first of all, aesthetics is not only the appreciation of beautiful things, but it's a state of mind given by the Helmholtz named illumination. Helmholtz has given 4 stages of problem solving, that is preparation, incubation, illumination. And so illumination is the state of mind where the aesthetic sense can be seen in the children. And the school ecology itself is the infrastructure and superstructure. The interaction between infrastructure creates the superstructure that is in the form of behavior we may see. Foundation of aesthetic leadership. Only proposition is that is genetic. Then every child, every student is having the potential, innate potential leader, gets the exposure to the environment. And number 1, we should have the parameter to identify the leadership. Actually, leaders should have as I remember many of the students whose behavior at that time may not be recognized as a leadership character. They may be a student as far as the academic, but after 19 years, they are still directing my behavior. The aesthetic leader may direct our behavior irrespective of time and space. There are various students. Actually, every child should have the a concept of epistemological inquiry. What's going on in their surroundings? If they are engaged themselves to identify the problem, to diagnose the problem, to have the various to solve the problem, that is the process. This should be heard as a aesthetic sense, and that is that inquiry know-how is very essential. Now I am going to discuss 2 or 3 examples. The principal of KB Bilaspur has seen the Mr. Shankar staff demonstrating how to do all the conservancy staff in the washroom. Immediately the sub staff has autonomy to apply the conservancy staff for the keep and beautification of his school plan. In a year, his leadership imprint may be seen everywhere in the campus as far as cleanliness and beautification is concerned. Their role of job enrichment of rotation, and that sub staff has felt insight he used express in a various areas in beautification. In class, when one chapter is there, in that particular lesson, the role of women are asked, jahan पहिया है वहां क्या है? Some students replied, जहां पहिया है वहां गति है, जहां पहिया है वहां विकास है, जहां पहिया है वहां विचार है. But one student replied, जहां पहिया है वहां. Just see the reflex, see the flexibility of thought and fluency of thought. This flexibility of thought should have each and every child who is studying in our Vidyalaya, so that he should have epistemological inquiry, and then only that child become the human resource for another thing.
So your time is 1 more minute, sir.
Why? Okay, ma'am. While publishing quarterly Hindi patrika, some other experience articles written by the students are contemporary, thought-provoking and logical. Are writing articles after getting feedback of already learned text through implementation of day-to-day. After reading the lesson Bajarwad, the student collected the data from the shop, marketplace, and social advertisement and wrote an article. Learned concepts is being used in aspect or the in nearby the surroundings. Then the knowledge gets feedback and convert it to cognition. That sensation, perception, and cognition the chance is to be given to the student. One student who was very having the problem, he asked to accompany me in evening. There was moving with the children. The children was talking somewhere, thinking aloud. Suddenly he asked teacher to bend 35 degrees and look the moon through the betel leaf, and you will find how beautiful moon is. So this beauty of thought, and this should be recognized. Then only we will have the divergent thinking children, which is the basis of aesthetic sense. This is all about my paper, ma'am. Finally, in our system, children should not be exposed in many problems at a time perception is one factor. If time is sufficient, time is given, then eureka type of things is happening. When the child is having a problem and giving time to that particular problem, then only that state of mind. If he has been exposed to many tasks in a time, so he may not have this cognitive aspect of the things. So thanks for giving me opportunity. Thank you all. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Dhirendra ji. That was an interesting paper which you presented, and thank you for keeping tab of the time also. Maithili, thanks for reminding again and again. I think it is very important that all of us try to audit the time which has been given, because there are so many questions might pop up into the mind of all the presenters also. So that becomes very imperative that those questions are answered from the presenter itself. So it's better that we cover us well in time so that there is more time for interaction. With this, I would like to invite the third presenter, that is school leadership, presenting a paper on school leadership for school improvement and student learning. This is a case of schools in Shillong, and this is Mr. Rihulang Rembai.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes. So good afternoon.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, just a second. Please change your title as I have requested. This is the title of the theme, not the title of your paper. So kindly change it. Say.
Okay, we will. Thank you so much. So a very good afternoon, Madam Chairperson, Professor Sharat Sinha, the organizers, Dr. Mithili, and the others, as well as all the fellow participants. So I'm just going to share a presentation.
Yeah, keep the time, please. That's
yes.
Sure. Keep the time.
Sure. Can my slides be seen?
No, not yet.
It's there?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. The title will be changed, of course, but as for now, I'll be presenting it as it is: school leadership, schools, school improvement and student learning, cases of schools in Shillong. Myself, Rihulang Rembai, associated with Northeast Hill University. So, in the beginning, I would like to state, really successful organization has experience working with the effective leadership that we see, many successful educational organizations which come up as they are because of effective leadership and many other factors. So school leaders are nonetheless very important frontrunners who shoulders responsibility for school improvement and students' learning. The school leadership is the cause that calls school leaders to be dynamic and vibrant and work on things that need to be worked. So it is important, it's an important school leadership. It would bring success in school education as it aims out the best in teachers and students. So if the objectives of the study is to find out the practices of school leadership for school improvement in Shillong, and to also study on the practices of school leadership for student learning in some of the respective school. The method which was chosen for the study was the method, using where collected the interview from school leaders or principals, where the term has been used interchangeably from the three schools in Shillong. So the findings, I will come straight to the findings. When I look at the background of the school leaders had a number of years of experience as school leaders, ranging from 2 years, and had attended leadership program, so that they will be able to update themselves with with the chair. Then the school just said that their strengths are mostly, when we look into the findings of the background of the school year, that that emotion, they have strong emotion towards their job. They have a very strong emotion body. So you find that in most of the cases, school leaders have stated that the ability to motivate, the willingness to learn, the love for the schools, for the students. However, there was a school leader who had thought cognitively that being a good is the strength of this particular participant, and also that another stated that the required infrastructure that the school has actually have proved to be a lot, have helped the principal to move ahead with that. Coming to the findings, school leaders had stressed that they will empower students. In most of the cases, it was to empower scholars of education. Come to the initiatives which they had practiced, so that they will help bring about schooling. They had given their experience on the initiative which they have started. Like, they try to understand the problem. They not only try to understand the problem, they try to look into it. They try to motivate teachers, encourage the teachers to improve. There was continuous monitoring of the things which were already implemented in the school. There were different professional development programs for the teachers. Of course, creative interest in the. Then talking about the practice, it was all the cases. It was a district leadership. School head was the responsible people in school improvement. Then when we look into this, supervisor, student infrastructure, if there's any ongoing infrastructure sensitive infrastructure and no, they are not good facilities. Yes, 100% they are involved as leaders in emergencies. 66% of them only state that they were involved if any emergency happened in the school, and in curricular progress and co-curricular school, 83% were talking. They were some other people who are given a job to do the things. Then when it comes to reported in relation to collaboration with other process, they stated that collaborated with other schools, 16.67 with funding agencies for some work, collaborate for research program, only 16.67%. They collaborate mostly with human resource, whether it's an individual or a group, school improvement, as well as they use mostly local resources. It was sad though that schools and universities were not linked at all. There was no isolation gap between universities and schools, which I thought was one of the weak points, and which work forward to help bring into schools. And next is in relation to the interaction program provided for which the school leaders are personally providing are the kind of face-to-face interaction, constructive criticism if there's any teachers give at a level because some of them are already doctorate being school leaders. Then there's a face-to-face interaction, group animation, seminars and leadership training for the teachers. When it comes to the programs which are organized by the schools, they stated that these are some of the programs which they have oriented their teachers, like for example, orientation programs and teachers orientation program, counseling program, annual refresher for teachers, and kind of retreat which they give, and also updating programs like leadership training.
You have the 1 minute.
Okay, in relation to school leaders reporting the specific programs, there are different specific programs which they run in order to help school improvement. One very pertinent one is that a particular school is using professional learning committees are totally involved after school to help there's a call for school improvement as stated by the school leaders. Teachers the most demand. However, school managing committee and community have had a social role to play for school improvement. When it comes to school leaders reporting, they are monitor at classroom level. They say that 50% of them teachers report.
You are not audible. Madam, you are not audible. Hello, are you with us? Is she audible
Madam,
to
no,
others?
she's not audible. No,
Okay.
she's a connection, it seems.
Yeah, looks like.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible, but the speaker is not audible.
She get and listen to her. So can one express?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sorry.
Yes.
And her papers, I think, is yes, it is on 21st century learning implications for school leadership. So, what do you, Shreya ji? And please.
I'm going to try finishing before time so I can hear your thoughts as well.
No.
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 Is it visible now?
No.
Shreya,
Is it visible now?
all the very best.
Yes.
Yeah, it's coming.
Thank you. Oh, good to hear my voices again. Okay, so thanks for the time and the opportunity. Very quickly, my paper is more of a literature review paper, and it's focusing on what learning needs to be like in the 21st century, and what are the implications for school leadership. The structure is basically around some level of introduction and text of what the world means for the 21st century and some trends that literature is showing, some distance. So, a quote by Papadopoulos is that he says that a century needs to carry a vision of what society would be like, which means it needs to be futuristic. The NCA 2005 has about it, the talking about it. There seems to be a dichotomy and practice happens, right? We also know that school leadership influence how quality of education that happens in the school. In this paper, what essentially and look at vocations for school leadership. Yeah, okay. So, called as, which means the world which is certain and ambiguous. And there is a very interesting study by the McKinsey Globe points out and talk about how the world is going to change owing to the automation, changes, economic trends, and the environment. Two different work is the way citizenship is looked at, environment, and therefore the cohabitation, fast changing world. What is it that children? There are several studies and several frameworks that look at the first 21st century. One very important thing that while I was looking at several frameworks, and I'm only a very is that a lot of people seem to, and none of these skills focus on the academic of education. So, for example, like thinking, creating, cognition, and several skills that have been bucketed under it. Study that's done by layering, and there's the OECD's study of how this club. So this is one example of such a construct. Michael Fuller has talks and he's of I'm going to go first, right? So I'm sorry, unmute yourself.
Please mute your mic.
Time limit है क्या?
Mic, we are closing our mic.
लेकिन फिर भी फिर करना पड़ेगा.
Hello, Mr. Singh. Please mute your mic. Mr. Singh, please mute your mic. Mr. Singh, please mute your mic.
Yeah. So another very interesting framework that has come into the picture is called as the social emotional ethical learning framework at Emory University with the Dalai Lama Trust. And it's a wonderful curriculum for kindergarten till 12th grade. A very wonderful way of how they are defining 21st century learning. I will not get into the details of what these skills are, but I will walk through what she says also around why these are not very important. There's some contentions to it. There's some people who say there's nothing new about these skills, right? They've always been a part of a system. It's just that they haven't been taught well. Some say that, these need to go hand in hand with your mainstream school formal education. Now, looking at what literature says on the leadership that's needed for 21st century, it's noted that a lot of people say that a school leader needs to be able to practice and the values that determine practice. And they emphasize on something internal as well as external, how I think and what I do. One needs to align the school with the external standards and set goals, something Professor Verghese also spoke about. And it's important to stand for ideas and values that make life meaningful or others. That's something that's needed in the 21st century learning to happen in children. Very quickly, I think this is not new for any of us here. The NEP has actually done just this very wonderful, recognizing the idea that 21st century is from what it was previously. So it's focused on the curriculum and pedagogy and how it needs to transform and work by SCR curriculum or the U modules or the toolkits or the niche. All of these talk about what we're learning are and are looking at it as life skills. Internationally, there's a lot of literature that also talks about it and then says that you need to not just put it in policy but have teachers model these behavior. Only then the children will be able to learn. So very quickly moving on to the discussion points. What I'm deriving out of all the literature review that I've done is that clearly there needs to be a change in the way that we have conceived education and therefore the curriculums. So trends reflect that the future of education and work and society is going to be very different from what it was. Children probably need to have these physiological capabilities, some cognitive capabilities, social emotional capabilities, certain mindsets, certain values, some ideas of what global citizenship is, and clearly some technological capabilities. Now, what it means for us in terms of the implications for school leaders are actually twofold. One is a more research implication, and the first is how is it that a school leader is able to reimagine herself and her role in the 21st century schools and 21st century learnings. How is it that the system will develop these capabilities? How does the system support these capabilities? And how do we prepare our teachers and our school principals to be able to be in a mentor role or a coach role? From a research lens, how is it that we understand the leadership of such a principal? We may not be able to just categorize it into a democratic or a collaborative or a transformational or any other kind, but to really theorize the practice that she does to be able to cause 21st century learning and equip the children. And how do we understand this whole policy and the practice narrative in the light of the changing ecosystem, especially with the coming of the NEP? That was super fast, I'm guessing.
Thank you, Shreya.
Thank you, Shreya. And I was busy typing, so I just couldn't acknowledge. Dr. Dinisha has made a request that she wants. So anyway, we have one more presenter in between. And if the presenter, Ambika Gulati, she sticks to time, I think we need not break the sequence which is going on. So thank you, Shreya. And now I invite Ambika Gulati from the Millennium School for presenting her paper that is Moving Towards Transformational Pedagogy, a case study. Kindly stick to the time, please be brief, and we would love to see your findings first, more on findings and less on the...
Yeah. Good afternoon. This is Ambika, and good afternoon, Dr. Sharat Sinha. So Shreya has already set the stage for me. So thank you, Shreya. You've taken away a lot of my time that I would have spent on why 21st century, why the job market is changing, and hence pedagogy at schools really needs to change, because we were taught in the 20th century and we are teaching the 21st century learners, and hence the need to make that change. So since she has given us the background,
had done a lot of it as well in the morning.
Yeah, but since you are just before me, I thought I'll just put that into context. So the context of this school is based in the United Arab Emirates. The UAE has both public and private schools, with the private schools being regulated. In Dubai specifically, it's called the Knowledge and Human Development Authority. And every year they do a school inspection, an audit, and validate whether schools are really working or not. The school in question has been rated very good since 2015, but over time, 2015, 16, and 17, the number of outstanding parameters out of 81, you can see that there was a significant decline. In April of 2017, the head of the school changed, and when the inspection took place in October, the leadership team got together, and these are leaders, not just the principal, but there's a vice principal, heads of sections and supervisors at every grade level, which constitute the leadership team. And they decided to focus on looking at transforming the pedagogical practices of the school so that we could get into school improvement and improve the status of the school. So the paper really attempts to explore two questions. What is the role of school leadership team in not just initiating change, which seems very easy, but sustaining it over time? And does that framework actually, is there any framework that emerges from the practices that this school has really undertaken? The methodology used is a mixed method design. It uses both qualitative and quantitative data. I'm not going into details. And the period of study starts from November 2017, which is when the school started this journey. The data that was collected has been analyzed using the pedagogical leadership framework for leading learning, which is what Dr. Maithili put up in the chat earlier today. It was developed by NEPA for CBSE under the pedagogical leadership. And the framework really talks about, at the big picture, that as school leaders, we need to set the direction for school improvement And we do that through practicing pedagogical leadership. And what we achieve is what Shreya spoke about in terms of the outcomes, not just 21st century skills and the social, emotional, moral, ethical aspects, but also progress and attainment across subjects. So that is what was done. So what were the findings, and what did the data, when we analyzed it, what did it look like? First, that there were certain themes that emerged from the data based on the narratives that the school teachers, the school leaders gave, and their reflections on their practice over the last 2 years. That setting of the vision was very important by the school leaders. It was transparent. Everybody knew it built a shared vision within the school community. There was a shifting of mindset which was required. And if you read the paper, it talks about how teachers believed they were the fountainheads of all learning in the school, but then soon realized that that's not how really children learn and needed to make that change. The school leadership itself underwent change because they saw their roles shifting from being supervisors to more mentors and being more developmental in nature. And at the school, every school leader teaches, and therefore they took on the responsibility of leading by example because they invited teachers to come into their class, give feedback on the lessons that were observed by them by using a structured rubric that was co-constructed between leadership and the teachers. It was also realized by the leadership team that you have to provide a common language to teachers because as an example, if you look at flipped learning, different teachers had different ideas of the concept, and they needed to put together a cheat sheet to be able to actually ensure everyone spoke the same language. Celebrating early risk takers was another practice of the leadership team. And that was not just success stories, but also when areas went wrong, so that people could build on where it was not going wrong. And we've heard through various papers this morning about building the culture of learning. And the culture of learning really starts with the leadership team. So, they read, they researched, they shared, they held meetings with their teachers, got them to discuss. So there was a lot of learning that was happening. And we took, the school took the idea of hubs of learning, which is a CBSE concept, into the school community. So hubs is really done through various schools, but in this school, the professional learning community was built within the school, and there was a lot of sharing of best practices. This practice still continues. And so senior school teachers learn from kindergarten practices and vice versa. And what was very interesting is that the leadership team put into place some reflective practice. It's not just about, instilling all these, but do, reflect to evaluate, are we really making that difference? Is something the question that they started to ask the teachers. And hence they developed a 15 question reflective question which the teachers needed to fill on a voluntary basis year on year to see how their journey in this pedagogical practice has actually changed. And most literature shows that change happens from top down. But in this school, they also impart their middle leaders, which were the heads of department. And, they were and subject coordinators at different levels and grade coordinators to bring that change into the practice. So this was the qualitative. From the qualitative data that was collected, these are the emerging themes that came out. And then we corroborated it with the quantitative data, which is the unbiased data, to see, because lesson observations happen not just by the leadership team, it also happens by external people. And in the last 3 years, there has been a steady increase in the number of outstanding lessons that have been observed in the school. It also corroborated that the data was showing that, the school does a student survey every year, and students tended to believe in the practices that the teachers were implementing. However, there is scope for improvement, which is the green that you see. Orange is strongly agree, and the yellow is somewhat agree. So there is definitely scope for improvement. Student the CBSE scores has improved both at grade 10 and grade 12 level. The average school results have improved in the last 3 years. The school also undertakes PISA and PVTS. There seems to be an improvement in the attainment rates there. The teachers were asked to undertake a survey as to how comfortable they are on the various pedagogical practices that have been initiated by the school. And definitely there's a very high level. It was out of 5. This is the average mark. So allowing students to create their AFL seems to be an area that the school can still work upon. And so therefore the conclusion really, because the data kind of corroborated with the narratives that was coming from the ground, we see that leadership definitely plays a very, very significant role in transforming pedagogical practices at a school level and also sustaining it. So, you know, the school leadership has to be committed to it, because the journey started in the end of 2017. We are at the beginning of 2021, and it's still continuing slowly but surely. And it's not about just one pedagogical practice being done and, you know, and going through. The leadership team has done it systematically. Every 6 months, they have brought in a change in the practice. And the themes actually corroborate the framework that has been developed by NEPA under Dr. Maithili's leadership, which has been submitted to CBSE under the Pedagogical Leadership Framework. So there is a very strong correlation between what has been observed at this school and the framework that has been developed. With that, I say a very big thank you to Dr. Maithili and the organizers of the school, and Dr. Sharad Sinha for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambika ji, and for a comprehensive presentation and sticking to the time. That was very nice of you. And now I see Captain Dr. Dinisha Bharadwaj. We'll discuss on your paper later, but I now invite, the topic seems to be pretty interesting, that silent students left behind in virtual classrooms. So I invite Captain Dr. Dinisha Bharadwaj Singh. She also has a session, another session in CBSE. So I quickly invite her to present.
Very good afternoon, ma'am, the chair and the August gathering. Am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much. I think the screen is not visible.
Yeah, not much. Yes, now partially.
It is,
you unshare and share it. You unshare and share it.
I'm stopping to share and sharing it again.
Yes.
In the meantime, when I share the screen, as ma'am has said, the topic is interesting. In fact, I converted into paper. This was one of the studies which we conducted, and we felt the need. So that was the actual need, where it was the desired on ground. My screen is troubling me. I don't know. I'll just see.
Yes, now it is visible. The screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am. I have made it into presentation mode. I'll keep a track of time. Thank you so much, Ambika, for adding smile on my face. I've lost 2 minutes. This study was actually the need of the hour when we shifted to virtual classroom, and we conducted it on ground. Then, I mean, right now I have changed it into my paper for this purpose. And this was we took help of a teacher and 2-3 students. How it went off was, we realized that the interest level going down. We realized number of other factors which I'll be highlighting simultaneously, and we found the need of this. I'll highlight that as well, as to when and how did we find the need. So I'll just go sequentially. We conducted this study in 5 phases, where first phase was analyzing the current system. When I say current system, it was the online system. We analyzed the gaps, and the gaps were that students were not taking interest, the grades came down, and there was a concern which was observed by teachers and parents as well. So we started working on to strategies to understand what are the gaps and how to bridge these gaps. Once we understood what are the gaps, the strategies were devised in phase 4 as to how to bridge these gaps, and then application and analysis was also done, and the results were visible, showing both quantitative as well as qualitative improvement. So quickly scrolling through the phase 1, where we started understanding the concern with what, why we called this term, why we use this term silent students, because ultimately that is what was visible behind the screen. And one thing which we had a loophole was that we were not allowing them to put the video on. The webinar system was such. So online classes, what was the impact, and how come the students were not so much enthusiastic as we expect? And what was the impact was that they encountered a lot of technical problems. It was a very monotonous process where students were not able to understand, motivation was less. Then somewhere the devices limitation and computer literacy was a limitation. That's so this is the platform. This is the outcomes to come forward. And when we analyze this, and when we took inputs from students as well as teachers, we realized, as you see in this bar chart, when we understood the problems, we tried to analyze in quality, so we showed the highest votes that this is the problem which needs to be taken care of and which needs quick attention. Otherwise, the entire system will not produce the desired results, because we were not knowing till when this process will go on. And 38% were students who kind of voted for this problem, that this is the major problem they are facing. Now, how we selected this problem, and this is actual picture taken by one of the parents, shared, and we share it on our social media. So that was also kind of spark which led us to this problem. After identifying problem, we started working on to gaps and working on to gap analysis, and we used Ishikawa fishbone diagram for the understanding of problems and finding out correct relationship as to what is the problem, what could be the cause, what could be the effect of it, and how we can eradicate this cause. And that is how the study moved further, starting from understanding the problem, coming to the causes of the problem, understanding cause-effect relation of the problem, which was student, academics, teachers, school, and parents, and then we moved forward. Now, phase 2 was strategies to bridge these gaps. What are these gaps? Though it will be coming up, but I'll tell you, the gaps were technical understanding, gaps were the students, they could not focus onto that, the gaps were that parents, gaps were teachers were not able to give that attention had it been of physical kind of concerns came forward. Teachers are not able to give attention, teachers are not able to focus, student has limitations of understanding, hiding behind the camera because camera is not open and only few, there is no attention which is given to students at home, maybe also busy. Analyzing the causes, went for analyzing the cause and effect relation, and the methods used was could be what could be the reach has led to students like that, what are the factors which can be used to add value to it, what are the factors which could be used motivate the students back, despite was the only option. And how was to students to analyze their problems and understand the concerns and get the things done. Only the solution also had to be found out online, because the complete moment control order was that. And then what can be the possible activities, rather what could be the possible activities which probably we bring into a routine of teaching learning process, we can understand the gaps and bridge the gaps. So phase 4 was testing of those strategies. Strategies were it was which we went for. One was students analysis, another was teachers analysis, and then parents analysis, and conducted 3 surveys: a student survey, parent survey, and teacher survey. And then these were the landmarks to deduce the findings and to close to the problem. Though it is little cumbersome, it is looking, but I'll just quickly highlight the bold points, few of them. There were technical concerns. There was emotional gap which was created where the connect of student and teacher was missing. Then classes were without video, as I said. Parents were busy in their own work. Teachers were interested to accomplish the session rather than taking care of students who were probably behind the screen. Somewhere the patients were there with devices being inappropriate, and then there was no bonding. There were few students who had not even seen teacher even the month of that, and ultimately this was affecting. Now the pricing, that is what was the the problem was solution in itself. All these problems understood were kind of what we do, what should we do one by one to connect students and concerns into the last phase of application and analysis, where how these things were we supported them and morally extra sessions. Students published the conduct activities, some motivational and emotional activities were conducted. Off-school activities were afternoon sessions, and that's how the bond was established. Also, some webinars for parents for making them understand they are at home thinking that, okay, I am at home and my child is at home, was not the case. And then we got into result when we understood these, were solution in them, and we analyzed these problems, started working back from the problem to solve by little touch which was required, which we did. Tangible and intangible result. Tangible result graph is visible to us on right side. Then there was another is there already where students grade increase. Study was conducted after pre-midsem, and when we conducted midsem exams, there in their scores, two tangible results and some intangible. Students' morale was left, performance, and there was a willingness in all these activities. And then once we conducted in a small group in Cambridge, a segment of our school, then we went for input studies to tell it to all concerned, to be taken for the rest of the school. Ultimately, the result was to all of us. It continuously added value, and that is how I thought that our original quality circle study, I can take it down to this webinar as a paper, because small little things get ignored sometimes, but when we pay, it adds a lot of value. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Dinesha, for sticking to the time and presenting your study and relevant in the time. Now, may we invite the questions? I think we asked that we can run up this session till 2, and I'm thankful to all the participants who could make it, that we could wind up the session at 2, but then if some interaction, 5 minutes interaction we can have, it would be good, so that if somebody has to ask or somebody has to put up a question. I think I gave a message in the chat box that those who are interested, they may put up the questions in the chat box so that the answers can come from the participants. And otherwise, then if there are no questions, then I would resume. An open discussion is always a welcome one.
Yeah. Can I just begin so others may put in? I'm sure Shreya has some questions. I would love to listen to you.
Sure.
And I was I was very pleased to hear from Captain Dinisha that she used the fishbone analysis. It was long back that I was using in my sessions and in my practices on leadership, but then it's back. So back to hearing that, and really a wonderful application, a rigorous application of that, which you presented in terms of the analysis and how you went about increasing the results and getting into the root cause of the analysis. And that's really a tough process, though you made it so simple by presenting. So that appreciation from my side. And of course, some of the papers were really good, and I learned from called me in between because she lost the connection by Rambhai from Meghalaya or somewhere, that she almost presented and concluded, during which time her presentation, her internet connection was lost. So we have more or less listened to her. So that's the clarification that I wanted to just give. And now over to the questions, to the floor. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, Sonam ji.
This is Sonam Gelson from Ladakh. So,
okay.
Ma'am ji, I'm very much pleased to all of you that I just got a chance to interact with all of you, listening since from the beginning. All the experts, you people are having so much expertise in different fields. Yeah. So myself leading a school since from the last 4 or 5 years. So I'm sure that I get some help from you people, yeah, and, in leading the school, and what sort of leadership that actually needed. So just want to thank you very much, all of you, once again, ma'am.
Thank you, Sonam ji. You were there last year, isn't it? Do I remember correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And
his
school has developed during the winters. They have a ice skating for the children so that they come to the school, and that's how he is in touch with the children. Am I correct? Do I remember correctly? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Sonam ji,
we are arranging a winter camp every year. Yes.
Sonam ji, I just wanted to ask you. You were the one who got the teacher award this year.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Exactly, ma'am.
I remember. Maybe you do not remember because I was the jury member in your selection. So that's why your name sounded very familiar.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
So he's doing wonders. He has done a lot of work, and I was really impressed by the work he has done on his own. And there was something that founder mentioned, that he has purchased a bus for the school, and that has increased the enrollment, almost doubled in the school. I still remember his contributions, so I congratulate you. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, I need your permission to quit the session. I have to join a CBSE session.
Sure.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so much.
Any more questions? Any more observations, suggestions?
One observation was it got very well connected Shreya's paper on because where it was seeing something like having the identifying the gap, and what is it going to be like to address the gap was Ambika's paper, where she thematically mapped her work on how she went about ensuring that the school improvement is on a learning curve and goes up, and that was very interesting, though we did not really foresee when we were putting the papers together in this fashion. So that was something of a wow moment for me in the organizing this session. Yeah.
And it saved a lot of time because we made the content as to why we are doing what we are doing. And in fact, the journey is complete because in the coming year, we have reimagined assessment to evaluate century skills and the development of children, moving away from the very stereotypical report card to bring that newness into the system. So yeah, we can just say that that's why it's moving towards pedagogical. Because I don't a transformation, because I don't think that journey will ever end at any.
And yes, that's true. And the first paper on principles, leadership styles, on learning styles of students in Imphal East was something I felt it as unique. It is not just the learning outcomes, but it was styles of students, which is a unique angle to look at. So that paper, from the perspective of how learning can be improved, shows the process by which leadership can spearhead the learning of students through tapping, recognizing, and using those styles that we do not as unique from that perspective. So that was one unique feature which I found. Yeah.
Any more observations? Or,
hello? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Any more observation, or shall I give?
Ma'am, you're not.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Now are you audible? Now am I audible? Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Maithili, and I must thank all. It was like it was a learning session for me too. Last year we had a conference on school leadership at the NCRE,
yes,
and we got a lot of papers from all part of the country, and that too were also based on lots of experiences and school leaders, school principals, headmasters, a few case studies also. I saw uniqueness and newness in the papers in the session. And very happy. It was like all the time I was constantly glued, and if any disturbance was coming in my room, because simultaneously another workshop which I am coordinating is going on in the adjacent room. So any queries I had to put the video off and answer those, finding it quite frustrating because it was my continuity in listening to you was being disturbed. Anyways, what I could gather that all the papers were unique, I would say. And the first one was it caught my attention. That is by Mohammed Jabir Rahman, on the leadership style. A lot of work has been done by Nepal on school leadership. And as I have been reading a lot of literature on leadership, I understand that the leadership style plays a very crucial role framing the child, framing the school improvement in school practice. If I recall as saying that have a school, we cannot have a poor school with a poor leader, but we can have a we can have a poor school with a we can never have with a poor school with an efficient leader. It was just 2 or 3 days back. I'm not recalling context, but I understand that the more dynamic or the better the learner, the school leader is, it influences the entire school ecosystem a lot, and that was something which was reflected in paper one. Congratulations, Mohammed Zabir Rahman and Rajkumari Sujata Devi, for linking it with the learning styles of the children of the upper primary school, and particularly it comes from the Northeast, where we are not very well aware of the happening, and the changes are reaching there slowly, as many of our studies point out. So this was a welcome study. Congratulations. And the second study was by Dhirendra Jhaji from aesthetic sense in school. That also made an interesting listening, because of course, I could not find the empirical studies or the details of empirical studies which he was trying to present, and it would have added more value if he would have added those findings of those empirical studies to this paper. Yes, it is very important, the aesthetic sense, looking into the aesthetic sense of everything around in the school ecology makes sense, and to derive the best and to cull out the best from that. That is something a good leader should think of proactively. So congratulations, Jhaji. And the third one, which was interrupted, but more or less we could listen to it. Again, school leadership or school improvement, which was her study in schools of Shillong. I also congratulate Dr. Pulang Rambai for the school leadership for school improvement. Of course, that is very important. The school leadership plays an important role. Time and again, it has been stressed out. NIPA has been doing a human service to all the country in the National School Leadership Program. And in the Nishtha program also, along we had leadership sessions. And we could understand, while I happened to work with the Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan for almost 9 to 10 years, and while conducting various programs for the school and then doing a follow-up school teachers or in-service capacity building program, what we found in the follow-up studies was when we carried out a research study on follow-up of what so many capacity building programs we are doing, and why is that we are not seeing the results. It may be a drop in the ocean, but still we need to see the results somewhere. We could understand that the principal, there was no synergy between those teachers or the key resource persons who had been trained or whose capacity had been built, and the principals or the leaders of the school. It took a lot of efforts for those teachers to make them understand the innovations and the new things or the new strategies which they are going to implement or they are trying to implement in the classroom. So that is where the cord was stuck, and there we understood that yes, training of leaders is also important. For this, NUPA has done a lot of work, and now after doing the follow-up, in the Nishtha follow-up also, we are finding that yes, the changes are occurring, although at a the pace is slow, we need to catch up. Then Shreya's paper on 21st century learning. Recently, I spoke in one of the seminars, and when they were talking of restructuring of curriculum, and they in which various states started already thinking that what to add into their curriculum. That was not related to schools but higher education. And when they were talking of the skills, I was amazed to see that none of the jobs or none of the skills, none of us are aware that what is going to be the job scenario after 5 years. All those job and all those skill sets which we are trying to master now will be redundant after 5 years. And those we cannot just imagine what was. So this NCRT thought, and we thought of preparing the learning outcomes based on the competencies, and all the syllabus, all the curriculum, be it of higher education or be it of, should focus on developing of the competencies, and herein the role of school leaders is something that they have to think in proactively to build an entire ecosystem in the school to think on those lines and to promote the teachers or to support the teachers in trying to find out those skill sets and trying to nurture them. So congratulations, Shreya, for your excellent presentation. Then Ambika ji's, that was again moving towards transformational pedagogy. That was also well appreciated, very nicely presented. And just as Maithili ji also said that it was just a continuation of what Shreya presented. So two papers linked together accidentally, but gelled so well, so nicely amalgamated. Congratulations, Ambika ji. And definitely transformation of pedagogy is something which we have been thinking even here, and in all our meetings also we talk that what is that pedagogy that is going to work and how to just that block in the mindset, how do you have to change towards transforming this. And yes, since this conference is on leadership, it's the spearhead this revolution. The teachers, other agencies who are engrossed and are constantly working. As even our the new National Education Policy 2020 also reflects many places this transformative pedagogy. The last, the silent students left behind in virtual classroom by Captain Dinesha Singh, that also deserves an applause, because this is a very, very crucial problem. And now Recently, I was talking to one of the school principals, and she said, "Madam, we did so much of efforts throughout the session." Of course, it was her study, and as she mentioned it, she said, "Madam, we did our best efforts, and when children came back to the school, we find that they are at naught. Most of them, no, the amount of efforts which we have put into the online classes, they have not bore the fruit to the design which they had expected." So this is an eye opener, and this type of more studies, they are needed as to. And the particular thing which I liked in Captain Dinesha's presentation was that where the problem is, solutions. There's a ray of solution there. There's a hope for solution. They try to, instead of blaming technology, blaming the situations, blaming the conditions, whatever, or blaming digital divide, whatever. She tried, their group or their school or in the study, they tried to find out the solutions. So all these 6 papers, excellent presenters, excellent topics thought of and very nicely presented, kept a tab of time. I took little extra time, but again then I got my time to 15 minutes. Thank you so very much, Dr. Maithili. Well done, presenters. And thank you, Dr. Mary. I could see that Dr. Rashmi was also there, and I had Helen Harty and Sete, and she had health problem, but I was happy to see her face in between. And Dr. Sunita also, the organizers, for giving opportunity to interact with such wonderful participants, listen to such mind-blowing presentations. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, ma'am, for agreeing to chair the session, opening up with the time, and the delay of time was not an issue. So we really thank you so much on behalf of NIPA and personally from my side.
Everybody has so did I.
Yes.
To my home to have it.
Thank you. So, yes, so I was about to ask the paper presenters here. I put it on the chat that delayed by almost an hour. Now, I'm session on the gender and school leadership.
Can I quit?
Yeah, yes, thank you so much. Yeah. So, can we meet at 3 o'clock so that we make up the sessions half an hour early or delay? That is all. So, with your permission, off the floor and the participants, I would request that please assemble at 3 o'clock sharp. So we begin with the session on gender leadership, which is an interesting and a very unique topic, untouched by mostly a virgin area in the area of school leadership. Yeah. We'll meet at 3 o'clock again with the sessions. Thank you all. It was a wonderful journey, wonderful sessions all through since the beginning. We'll come back at 3. Yes.